So with all this noise that's been going on with Francis Ngannou and Dana White, I want to ask you guys something. Why does Dana White seem to favor a little bit more of Nate Diaz and his whole Jake Paul boxing announcement that has already taken place? The fight's already booked and it's already going to happen August 5th. Why is he okay with that, but he is not okay with the whole contract that Francis Ngannou got with the PFL? Honestly, I'll say this. Why? Because it does feel like Nate Diaz is going to come back to the UFC. He's already said that he's going to come back to the UFC, and he left in certain good terms. Like, he didn't leave as a champion. He didn't hold up the division. He didn't do anything to that nature. You know, where Francis Ngannou, again, please, he did not hold up a division. He did not. He was 100% gonna fight. He always wanted to fight. He always wanted to fight John Jones when he won the championship. We already know that. But he did leave as a champion, and that is something that Dana White has been known that he does not really like that. We remember what George St. Pierre did that back in, I want to say, what, 2013? When he pretty much vacated the belt when he beat Johnny Hendricks, and he left for quite some time. Maybe it was 2014. Somewhere around that time frame, he left. He was gone. And, you can see Dana White wasn't too pleased with that. He really wasn't. Then, of course, George St. Pierre comes back again, beats Michael Bisping in 2017 in November, and he leaves again. We already know why George left. Because he had ulcerative colitis. He just couldn't do it no more. His body couldn't handle it no more. And, you know what? That was that. The rest is history. We know that Dana White isn't the biggest fan of people vacating their belts. I think that is also why he never allowed the champ to happen earlier when Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre, John Jones were in their reigns, and we saw them in multiple title defenses, but we never got to see them in fighting other champions in other weight divisions. So yes, Francis left with the belt. Francis left with a winning record. Francis left pretty much on top of the world. Nate Diaz, don't get me wrong, he's always going to be on top of the world, but he was never really a championship status. He's never really has been a pound for pound status. He never really had that. He just had that star power. You know, he had that pay-per-view rating star power, which is still good. Don't get me wrong. You know, most people would rather have that than the championship status. But Francis Ngannou also had that in his arsenal as well. You know, he had a country behind him. You know, we remember when he fought Stipe Miocic back in 2021 and he knocked him out. They actually had a live broadcast happening over there, and you just see, you know, all his people just pretty much, you know, praising him and actually being happy the fact that he won the championship. And you don't really see that in very many other champions where they have a broadcast. Sometimes they have them in like gyms and they see their training partners and their people going happy and such like that. But in a country where he has all his family, his friends, and all his people that are following him and such like that, then yeah, he has a really big following in his country. So he does. I don't want to hear this fact that he is not a star power. Believe me, he is a huge star power. You know, he is a huge. Maybe right now he is not 100% the biggest name. Like, you know, you always want to, everyone wants to try to compare it to Conor, you know, something like that. No one's bigger than Conor. Conor McGregor, of course, stands alone. So I think that's the reason why. And also because of the fact that Francis Ngannou really didn't want to come to terms, really didn't want to do any kind of deal making with the UFC. You know, he had certain ideas of what he wanted, and the UFC just could not match that. Or the UFC just refused to match that. And here's the thing. You know, I remember when Dana White did that press conference a couple of days back or on Saturday and whatnot, he said things like, we let Francis go, and I've already heard a few people say, well, like, no, the UFC actually did let Francis go. They could have matched that deal. They could have gave him what he wanted, but they choose not to, so they let him go. Well, here's the thing. Maybe they did not want to because they just did not want to give Francis what he actually wanted. Because, like, I've heard other people say, well, because they don't feel like he's worth that. I'm sorry, but Francis Ngannou is very much worth that. He is very much worth that. He has an entire country following him, right beside him, rooting for him. He actually probably even has two countries. I believe he fights for like Africa, and also he's fought a lot in Paris and France. So in a sense, he actually has two countries. And I guarantee you, the UFC went over there with France and did a big pay-per-view in France. I promise you, they put Francis Ngannou as a headliner. They sound out 100%. 100%. I guarantee you, he has a huge following in France. So that goes without saying. And of course, if they ever do, which they do plan on doing one day, pay-per-view over there in Africa, that, I mean, just drop the mic right there, right then and there. That's it. 100%. It's done deal. You know, Francis Ngannou completely just will annihilate, not annihilate, I guess you could say, but just, well, yeah, annihilate the records. 100%. He will break new records if he were to be the headliner in that pay per view. 100%. There just no is. Maybe you got Stylebender, maybe you got Kamaru Usman, but I really truly believe Francis Ngannou stands alone when it comes to his star power, in a sense. So, you know, you have that, and it just felt like, I think it felt like more of like, hey, I got you, or you know what, he did not leave us, I left him, almost like an ex thing. You know, when you break up with somebody, oh no, 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 they didn't break up with me, I broke up with them. They want to make sure they have that last laugh. They want to make sure like they have that satisfaction of saying like, oh no, 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 we let him go. He did not leave us, we let him go. Like, no, 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 he left you guys. He probably could have came up with a deal. Maybe he actually did, you know, you guys threw everything at him where he was gonna make multi-million dollars, and he just decided, no, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna go this way instead. And here they are trying to save face and say, nah, yeah, we tried to give him a deal, but we're just not doing that here. So we let him go. Like, no, you never know. You never know. The conversation is between two people, and it was between Francis Ngannou and I believe, I'm not sure who the other person was, but I do not believe it was Dana White. So you never know. You never really know what goes on between the conversation between two people, like I just said. So there's that. So I think it just left a bad taste in the UFC's mouth with Francis Ngannou and having come up with this new deal. Now I know there's a lot of unanswered questions, like who Francis is gonna fight, how big is the pay-per-view gonna draw. Is he gonna get a boxing match? Yeah, of course. There's all these other questions that you gotta ask yourself. Is this worth it? And right now, it doesn't look very much. It doesn't look as juicy right now because there is no boxing fight and there is no big MMA fight for him. But maybe, just maybe, this might work out. We still got to give it time. It took a little while. And then, of course, Dana White also, that goes for the contract and everything like that. Dana White goes on the whole press conference. It says that, you know, he believes that Francis Ngannou doesn't want to take chances and he hasn't really been active. Well, how come he's not saying that about also like guys like Nate Diaz, who really wasn't super active in his career either? But we already know Nate Diaz is always down to fight. But we also remember that he was also going through contract disputes as well. And then also the most famous man of all, Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor, I've made a video regarding this, has had 5 fights in 7 years. That's not a lot. That's pretty bad. And of course, he already knows his reasons. He's a multimillionaire. He has millions and millions and millions of dollars. You know, you put the entire UFC roster together, and they pretty much will still not be able to catch up to what Conor McGregor has made over the years. So yeah, you know, he has made a lot of money. So yeah, of course, that's the reason why he doesn't want to fight multiple times. But at the end of the day, Francis Ngannou has always said he wanted to fight. Francis Ngannou has always challenged other people. He's always wanted to stay active with other people. When he won that championship against Stipe Miocic, he wanted to be active and he wanted to go again. And let's not forget, yes, Francis Ngannou did not fight or has not fought recently because he has had some MCL, ACL injuries on his knees, both knees. You got to remember that. He went into that fight with Ciryl Gane hurt, 100% hurt. He went in there with career-ending injuries. You know how I think George St. Pierre had that same injury when he was going in there, when they were trying to make that Nick Diaz fight the first time. They were trying to do the Carlos Condit, but the fights ended up falling through, and it was Nick Diaz versus BJ Penn. A year later, George St. Pierre comes back. He had that ACL injury. It took him almost a whole year to come back. It took him that long. And that's how long it's going to take for Francis as well. You know, you got to remember, he is a big guy. He's a big guy. You know, so he does carry a lot of weight. He does carry a lot of mass on him. So, of course, it's probably going to be a little bit harder for him to really heal being as big as he is. And then get into training shape, get into fighting shape. You know, so there's a lot that goes into it. And there's a lot we do not know 100%. So that's just my question to you guys. Why does he do that? Why does Dana White decide to show like face with all these other fighters that he knows 100% the answers to? He knows that guys don't fight very often, like Conor McGregor, like Nick Diaz, Nate Diaz, even hell, John Jones. Look, 3 years, John Jones. All of a sudden, John Jones doesn't want to fight, but then all of a sudden he gets to fight. Now all of a sudden he becomes the pound for pound best fighter of all time. So yeah, like he says a lot, but then when the time comes, it's just like he changes his tune right away. He changes it right away, and I don't know. That just bothers me a little bit. I wanted to ask your guys' thoughts on that. Why do you think he does that? Why do you think he maybe has not said a whole lot regarding Nate Diaz, but definitely is outspoken to Francis Ngannou? Let me know in the comments, guys. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.